All right, we're recording. So, hi everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Behind the Cover. I'm Lauren Doherty, an editor-in-chief of the New Canaan High School Courant, and I'm joined today by the Greenwich High School Beak and the Wilton High School Forum.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Kate. Sorry.
I'm so sorry, Katie. Go ahead.
I'm Kate. I'm editor-chief of the New Canaan High School Courant, and I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Hi, I'm Alicia Tang. I'm editor-in-chief editorial for the GHS Beak, and I'm joined today by my other editor-in-chief, Sydney.
Hi, I'm Floch. I'm editor-in-chief of digital media for the Beak at Greenwich High School.
Hi, I'm Lora. I'm the editor-in-chief for the forum at Wilton High School.
All right, great. So to start, we're going to kind of propose the question of how does everyone run their publication? Here at the Courant, we have a staff of around 40 people and 2 teacher advisors, one on the writing end and one on the visual media end. And we actually have a staff of 6 editors-in-chief. So yeah, that's more than most, I think.
All right, I can go. So at the forum, we have about 25 writers, and we have 3 managing editors, and we have 1 teacher advisor.
At Greenwich High School, we have 2 editors-in-chief and 2 teacher advisors.
Cool. And so how does everyone run their newspaper online and in print? Do you have monthly print editions, a regularly updated website? How does that work for you?
So personally, we have just an online presence. We have an online publication, so we don't really do anything in print. We have rather a different club that manages sort of like our literary magazine. But in terms of us and like I manage like all of the things that go on the website. And pretty much it's like a daily occurrence whenever things come in. I publish them and then it's just kind of gets updated whenever things come in.
So at the Greenwich High School Beak, we don't publish nearly as frequently as you guys do. I'd say we publish once a month. We have our monthly editions on print, and then we have everything that goes onto the monthly editions. We also publish on our school newspaper. But actually, in recent years, we've been focusing on our social media presence. We've started our podcast last year, which Sydney was in charge of, and we have a large fan bases on our Instagram, and we were even thinking about starting a TikTok. So yeah, a lot of our presence has been directed from the print to all of these digital platforms now.
Yeah, we just started a TikTok account, so I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it's super fun.
The best thing to do is if you upload the TikToks on TikTok and then also upload them as Instagram Reels, we get like thousands of views on Instagram and only a couple hundred on TikTok, but it works really well.
Yeah, I would say most of our student body follows our Instagram account, which is really cool. We have a really great social media director who posts kind of what goes on the webpage. She kind of transfers that over to our Instagram page. And so, yeah, a lot of our student body gets to see it. And it's really accessible. So it's really cool.
And so next off, does anyone have like a favorite story they've written? I know, Kate, you can definitely attest to this for the Courant, but we did a lot of Black Lives Matter coverage, a lot of opinion pieces around that, feature stories, even news when the protests were going on a couple of years ago.
I can start. So my favorite story I've written for the Courant was about Kamala Harris and kind of the impact she's had on girls stepping up and being the first vice president, especially a woman of color. And so, yeah, I talked to minorities, and I talked to, we have a foundation in town called Live Girl. I talked to the founder of that, and I had I don't know, it was really eye-opening for me to see the wide range of impacts it had on a lot of different people, and it was really cool to write, and I think it touched a lot of people.
I can go ahead. So I personally don't really cover politics that much. But one of the things that I did cover was like this whole big social media presence around sort of cancel culture and how that's like a really big influence in modern society, and sort of how that affects both politics and just like social presence for celebrities and just regular people every day.
My favorite,
Kind of adding on, sorry about that, Alicia. Kind of adding on to that, one of the, I think it was the second episode that our podcast did was about an anonymous gossip account that went viral for the student body. And I was able to get into contact through the school newspaper's Instagram with this person. And I was able to ask them questions about how they started it and why they did it and all of that stuff.
Yeah, speaking of that, I think it was the GHST account. The girl or the moderator didn't even go to our school. And I think that being on a school newspaper gives us such a good platform to be able to reach out to these different kinds of people who are doing different things, because otherwise we wouldn't have like an insider's view on how they operate. And my favorite piece that I've done for a school newspaper was actually the one we most recently published, which is the book column. I co-wrote it with somebody else that was on the newspaper, and she was actually a freshman, and we both shared a love of reading, and we decided, actually we did The Glass Castle, which is a memoir, and I read it really recently, and I thought it was such a good book. I was like, I have to share this with the rest of the GHS population.
Cool. And I have a direct question for you, Laura. When I talked to Charlotte, who's the editor-in-chief at the NERAD at Darien, she actually told us this crazy story, how she was like almost canceled in a way for something she wrote for her student newspaper. She was saying she wrote a music review of a Black artists like rap music, and she wrote it kind of in a negative lens, but when she posted online, someone commented back at her, kind of coming from the Black Lives Matter perspective, while she thought she was writing more from the like musical opinion perspective, and how she ended up having to take the story down, and she got like a lot of clapback for it. So how did you find kind of like navigating such a sensitive story and such a sensitive topic like that to be?
I think it's very interesting because I did actually get comments sort of on that same realm, even though I didn't focus on anything particular. It was sort of like, oh, why are you writing this? Like, this doesn't matter, but it really does. And I think especially as student journalists, we have this kind of like expectation that we're supposed to, like one of your questions, and I'm jumping a little bit forward, but to like uphold the sort of the integrity of the school, and to make sure that like what we're saying is truthful, but at the same time we have to sort of portray our own opinion. And I do think that, I don't know, navigating that is such a tricky slope, because you're dealing with topics that people don't want to talk about, but at the same time it's like, I don't want to use anonymous sourcing because that's, it ruins the bias and everything. So I really don't know how to answer that question, but I do think it kind of just like you learn as you go, and just to like pick and choose what kinds of topics you want to talk about.
Yeah, and that leads nicely into a question I have for Sydney and Alicia. When you were writing that story about that anonymous Instagram account coming from the student newspaper Instagram account, or however you reached out to them, were you able to kind of learn who they were, like confidentially? How did that work?
Barely, not really. Did we, Sydney?
So when we did it, it was like, it was through like the gossip account. So I never knew this girl's name. All I know is that she did not attend Greenwich High School, and that I think she lived in New York. So she had just randomly picked a high school similar to a TikTok trend that went viral, I think like approximately a year ago, where I'm sure if many of you remember, where people picked random high schools. So that's where this girl found her inspiration. So on the podcast, we discussed that and kind of shared some of our opinions as like who she could be and why, like more reason as to like just theories as to why she could be doing it.
I think she never disclosed her identity because the whole anonymous aspect of it was integral to her being able to post what she posts, and so people can trust in her and they'll know that it's confidential. Speaking of TikTok trends, has devious licks been happening at your schools? Because it sure has at GHS, and we did a whole piece on it, didn't we, Sydney?
Yeah.
Kate, you want to take this one?
I don't think so. I mean, not to my knowledge. I know that one of my teachers mentioned that he locks his classroom, but besides that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think we've really experienced a lot for it, but yeah, teachers definitely do lock their classroom, I would say. Like when we go on lunch and we have mask breaks and whatever, they're pretty cautious about it.
Yeah.
Our school always, our teachers always lock the classrooms before or after lunch. It's like the kids at our school get pretty rowdy, I'd say. One time there's that flaming Chromebook incident, which I don't know if we covered for the Beak, but that was a
Yes.
whole that was a whole thing. Everybody was evacuated. There were like fire trucks and stuff. It was on. I think it may have made its way onto the social media, but it's cool that we get to report firsthand on all of that kind of stuff.
Adding on to Alicia, that was my first year on the Beak when that had happened. I was a new freshman, and this was like one of my first experiences when something was major breaking news. So I was able to see on both sides, on the social media aspects and like the editorial, like this article was coming out, I think within 24 hours, and we had like updates like within the hours, like of new videos and just new possible information of what the cause was. So it was really interesting as like a new student journalist to like find out like the behind the scenes.
Mhm. Have you guys had any experiences kind of writing about like controversial stuff that's particularly happened at your high school? I know like at the Courant, something that happened was after one of the football games, I think Darien High School like spray painted our something. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kate? I think they spray painted like where we post what upcoming sports games we have, like some fence, and it was a big deal because the Boy Scouts built it.
Yeah, there's like a fence when you drive on the main road kind of that connects Darien and New Canaan. There's like a gray fence that has like the scores of the recent sporting events, and they spray painted it with blue, like the score of the football game or something. And it was like a big thing. And our principal was not very happy about it, but
Yeah, but that was something we covered, Kate, right? I think,
yeah, we did.
yeah. Have you guys had any experiences like that?
I don't think so, not for a large part, no.
That's good though.
That's good. I feel like the New Canaan Darien rivalry is kind of unique in the sense where it's like been perpetuating for so many years. I don't know. How have you guys felt about like transitioning back from COVID and like training your like incoming journalism students? Because I feel like a lot of our editors, at least this year at the Courant, we found are more like our sports editors or features editors are more inexperienced. Not in any way their fault, just because of last year we weren't in the classroom. They didn't have the same instruction that we had when we were J1 students. So like when we create material, we try to gear it towards both the sports editors and the J1 students. So how have you guys done with like navigating that?
So here at the GHS Beak, we were fortunate enough to have a really great editor-in-chief last year. We still conducted all of our weekly meetings over Google Meets, and so everybody was able. We got into like separate like rooms, and then we were always very focused and on task. And I think that we never really noticed the disparity between the experience levels of returning members and new members, and new members really just caught on really quickly. We did like monthly, I'd say, instructional meetings to just, groom them and teach them how to do AP style or what kind of voice to use when you're writing. So yeah, we were just really lucky last year with that.
Yeah, for us, I think it was very different. We're a much like newer publication. So I moved here junior year and I started the publication pretty much single-handedly. And the thing is that we're not like a class, we're just a club. So we meet once a week for 30 minutes. And it's definitely like meeting over Zoom versus meeting in person. You can see so many like different things. And especially because these kids have never really like learned about journalism before, I think it's very difficult to be able to portray exactly what it is that you want, but to still have them understand their own style and create sort of like keep their artistic style without like putting too much of form or like style, like too much of what you want into their writing. So I definitely do think that COVID had a big impact on that, especially because like you can't really show them what the behind the scenes look like on Zoom, you know?
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had single-handedly brought up the Wilton High School paper. That's really impressive. Wait, where did you move from? And were you a journalist at your old school?
Yes, so I actually wrote for Scott Scoop at Courant High School in California.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
What was that like starting it at Wilton?
It was definitely different. I have had a lot of journalism experience in my past, but I think that I had quite a bit of backlash from people because they had like a print publication or some sort of like artistic publication in the past, but the sort of like consistent basis of like news coming in is very strange for people. But I think the whole community of students and like people wanting to write and share information was super powerful, and that's kind of what got me through it.
No, yeah, that's really cool that you did that. I think that is so important. Like being a student journalist, I've been writing for the school paper since sophomore year. I think it's so important that we get to express our voices. I've written about block scheduling, and like I know students writing about like later start times, and I think that it's important that we can express our opinions and get the voices of other students and other faculty incorporated in our work. I think it's really powerful.
At Greenwich, is it a class, like an elective, or is it a club?
Club, after school club.
There's a journalism class, but it's completely separate from the Beak.
Cool. Yeah, the Courant for us is like an elective class. We get school credit for it and everything.
Yeah, it counts as second English class. It's period 6. We go to Courant. That's
Hey,
crazy.
Cindy, I think it's time to petition for the Beak to be
Oh yeah,
an elective now.
100%.
No, yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kate.
No, sorry. Go for it.
I was just going to say, we're pretty fortunate at New Canaan High School. We have the Courant, which is our print newspaper, which is our journalism class. And then we have NCTV, which is our TV broadcasting class, which is actually like through UConn. So the kids get college credit for that. And then we have a club literary magazine called Spectator. So we have 3 like pretty good publications, I would say, right, Kate?
Yeah, I think all 3 of them are really strong. I know that our broadcasting equipment is like super unique, and it's like not a lot of others, public schools especially, have it. And so I think we're really fortunate for that. But yeah, I think that at New Canaan High School, we have really great ways to express ourselves and kind of use our voices as students. And yeah, we definitely are fortunate.
Yeah, as do we at Greenwich High School. We also have the literary magazine, which Sydney and I both have leadership positions in, called the Greenwich, and we also have our own broadcasting station called the Cardinal News, and then we also have the school newspaper. So all of them coincide pretty nicely with each other. Actually, the other day we were just talking about instituting a new column that would be like kind of a fusion between the creative side and the journalistic sides of writing, which is the literary magazine and the school newspaper. We're thinking about publishing news through a poetic lens, like you would write a poem about a recent happening. And so we were thinking about doing a column dedicated to that. And I thought, like, there's no need to keep these 2 clubs or different kinds of writing separate. I've always viewed journalism as this objective way of writing, but then I realized that you can also infuse creativity into your journalistic pursuits.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another, like, at New Canaan High School too, we've really been exploring media. I think someone brought that up earlier, but like kind of like even through this podcast, we're really trying to find new outlets of communication and new ways to grab readers' attention. We put a lot of work last year into redoing our website. Yeah, we just want to make our work more accessible, and we want to make sure that like journalism historically has just been like this print paid, like, you know, like these issues that come out periodically. But like, I think that by doing the work we're doing, we're really transforming the world of what journalism used to be. We're kind of bridging it into this new, more accessible, I guess, news, and a kind of just a more collaborative world, I guess.
Yeah, that leads me to our next question right before we wrap up. I don't know how many of you are interested in pursuing journalism in the future, in college and a career, but where do you think the future of journalism lies? I mean, you ask a lot of people, they say journalism's a dying industry. There's not that much going on there. But other people argue that the news is always going to have a presence in society. So where do you stand on that as a student journalist?
I think it's quite the opposite. I think that journalism now is growing, and due to the like many resources we have, whether like not everybody likes to sit down and read the paper. So through like a podcast or like an online article or like so many other sources, you can get your news and like learn, and it's so much it creates like a more there's so many more opportunities to do it. And I think like the rise of social media, yes, there is misinformation, and that is a really like significant issue, but there's also so many positives that social media has brought in terms of journalism.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think especially with like the younger generation sort of being as like outspoken as we are, I think there's kind of this whole idea that journalism is dying is false, and that it's coming back, in fact, because we love to talk about our opinions, and not in a bad way necessarily, but just because we are so opinionated, and that like we use social media, even though like you might not want to read an article or a feature or whatnot, but you will read social media, you will read the news, and it will still always be a part of our lives.
I think the whole conception that journalism is a dying industry is a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if we think it's dying and we're journalists ourselves, then it will be dying because we'll have no hope to infuse in our work and writing. I think that you asked me, where do you think the future of journalism lies? And I still really think that it's in our hands. And we are the new generation, as with many other industries, the young people are the new generation. And as Laura said, we're so vocal about all of our words, and we're so adamant about getting our opinions out. I really couldn't see journalism dying anywhere in the near future. The only thing is, I think we just need to learn how to pivot and adjust ourselves so that we can address new demographics and old demographics equally in the same way. We just need to think about building a digital platform, as many of you guys have done for your school newspapers. And I can see it here, and I think I'm confident that in the future we'll be able to do the same in our professional lives.
Yeah, I think that was a really good point too. And I think you're completely right. Like, we are the new generation. And I think especially in the past few years, maybe in the Trump era, people have been kind of questioning their faith in the news, and kind of like there's been this whole conception of like fake news and like what's biased and what's not. And I think it's really our job to kind of bridge that and reinstall trust in the people, yeah, like the people that are reading in our audience, to try, yeah, to bridge that gap. And to, I think, because that readers are is what's going to keep this industry alive. So I think that, yeah, I think that's our job. It's kind of in our hands, like you said, to move forward and to rebuild trust.
I couldn't agree more. I think, well, I'm hoping to major in journalism, so I certainly hope it's not dying. But people are always going to want to know the news. So whether that be via a TikTok, whether it be, the Today Show at 8 a.m. or the Wall Street Journal on the mornings, there's always going to be a way to get the news. And what that's going to look like in 50 years, we don't know, but hopefully we'll be leading that charge and we'll really help to evolve it.
Right.
May I ask a personal question?
Totally.
So what is it that inspired each of you to pursue journalism? I know for me, I watched this movie, Confessions of a Shopaholic, and I'm a bit of a shopaholic myself. And the protagonist, Becky Bloomwood, is a financial journalist, and she turns her love of shopping, something that other people would view as a bad thing, like something she's obsessed with, into a career. And I found that really inspiring. And apart from that, I also used to watch the 6 p.m. World News broadcast by ABC News, and that's eventually somewhere I want to end up in the future. So those things really inspired me to become a journalist. What about you guys?
Do you want to go?
Sure. So I know that for me, it was less sort of like an event, but more that like I was never really a good writer when I was younger. I like freshman year, I just kind of like sucked at writing. Always literary analysis was just like not good. And so I thought that like sort of channeling it into a different direction, such as journalism, where it's a little bit more straightforward, but you still have that like artistic thing, would make me a better writer. And so that's kind of what happened. And now I'm like an A student in my UConn class, so I think it's sort of like this bridge between this like educational and sort of artistic and creative side that kind of creates this like really powerful source of writing.
Yeah, my story is kind of, sorry, do you want to go?
No, you can go. I just realized go.
My story is kind of similar to Alicia's. I, when I was younger, would sit in front of the news and watch it, and my mom would literally have to drag me away from it. Because like there were like crimes or whatever on there. She didn't want me to see. I was like 5, but it kind of like got into that passion. When I was younger too, my mom, I always asked questions. And to the point my mom would ask me to like stop talking, like, because I just kept asking like, why this, why that. And I think that I found like that journalism was like the perfect outlet for me to kind of like use my curiosity, and like while gaining this information that I've always wanted to have, like through watching the news and like through listening to the radio. So yeah, I just found it like really, I just found like this like immediate passion for it. And I think it's so cool that my school has given me the opportunity to kind of pursue it.
I've always just been a very curious person, like just a really curious kid. Like, so when I arrived at the club fair for the first time as a freshman, I saw all these like clubs and I didn't know where to go. And then I see the Beak, the newspaper. I was like, oh, I figured I'd try it. And it turned out to be like an amazing way to channel all these questions into writing, which I always like which is also another passion of mine. So it's just like the two it was a perfect blend.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pinpoint when I really found an interest in it because it's kind of always had a presence in my life. Like both my parents were on their high school student newspaper, and my dad reads the New York Times every morning. My mom watches the Today Show every morning, and I actually joined my elementary student newspaper at West.
I joined that too.
Too. Yeah, and then at our high school, you're not allowed to join it until you're a sophomore. So I signed up really as soon as I could, and I just found I loved the community there, and I loved the freedom of expression, and our teachers are so supportive in letting us write about literally anything that I felt like it was a great way to spend my time, and it helped me in the classroom. It helped me outside of the classroom. And I found it was great too, because you just know what's going on. Like if you're writing a news story, you know what's going on in the school, what's going on with people. And it was just such a great way to stay involved, I guess. And I feel like curiosity has been a common theme through all our stories. So definitely just being curious about what the news has to offer. And I mean, I think when you turn on the TV, the news is what comes on immediately. There's kind of a reason for that. You flip to News 12 as soon as the cable comes on. And yeah, it's just curiosity, I think. All right, so I'm going to wrap us up, but this has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me.
It was so nice meeting all of you.